Okay, we will move on. There is a plenary session, a panel to take place. It's 45 minutes. It's called Boosting R&I Investments and Reforms to Secure Europe's Long-Term Competitiveness. So it's going to look at the existing actions at EU and member state level that are going to bridge the investment gap and implement some necessary reforms and explore, do we need some more decisive actions? We've got this target, this R&D target, 3% by 2030, so that really R&I can do what it needs to do to boost Europe's long-term sustainable competitiveness. So I'm going to invite now the moderator of that session, so please join me on stage, Magda De Carli, who is Head of Unit at DG Research and in the European Semester and Country Intelligence Unit. So warm applause.
Hi, Katrina.
Thank you. Thank you. A quick one before I leave it to you. I was having a look at what you do.
Yeah.
So you're very knowledgeable, because this is all about the money and more. Okay, this panel. All about the money and more, I will say, reforms. But you're kind of across the Recovery and Resilience Facility. You look at synergies with cohesion policy, structural funds. So you're absolutely the best person to moderate this discussion. Why is this discussion taking place? Why is this a piece of the puzzle of the content of this whole event? Why are we having it?
All right, we are having it. So thanks, Katrina. And let me immediately thanks, since she's still here, Commissioner Ivanova and Enrico Letta for setting the scene so well for the rest of the day and the session. Why it's important? First of all, because this keeps me away day and night, and not only me, my team, and also the Directorate, and also the Directorate General, and also other DGs. So for us, it's very important. We have seen how much our research and innovation, research and development are key for productivity growth. And they give us also, they are key drivers, and they give us the tools and the technologies that are very important to secure sustainable economies and also a society which is more inclusive. But for doing all this, the Commissioner said it very clearly, Enrico Letta too, we need investments, we need money, and not only, we need also reforms. And for me, it has always been that since research and innovation is so important, we need to mobilize any type of resources, because also together they can add value, and we can have, instead of 1 + 1, 2, we have more than that. So it's all the idea of the synergies, but also to exploit all the dynamics and complementarities that are there. We have a lot of funds as well, a lot of possibilities, and it's very important that member states can exploit as much as they can for the benefit of the stakeholders and the society, without different colors, and to do it easily. So because the objective is very important and everybody will benefit, this is what we have tried to do, collaborating a lot with all Directorate Generals as well. So it's not only our Director Generals, but other Director Generals too. It's a common effort, and until now I think we are quite pleased with the results, but still there is room to be for improvements, of course.
And I just pick up what you said there. You said to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
It's not always easy, is it, with all of these different funding instruments? In fact, at one point when you said any kind of funding combination, I actually thought maybe you were going to ask somebody in your team to take round a hat for the audience. Yeah, chuck your €5 in. All right. Brilliant. So you've got about 45 minutes, maybe a little bit under. Maybe if you can come in at no later than 10:50, that would be brilliant. Ask me back on stage. Right. And I can issue a few instructions ahead of the parallel sessions. Okay. I leave you to introduce your speakers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Katrina. And indeed, since we have a short time, I'm very pleased to invite the important panel that will be discussing this important topic. And I will start, therefore, with the Minister for the Hungarian Ministry for Culture and Innovation, Balázs Hanko. Please, thank you. Elisa Rivera Mendoza, Director General for Science from the Spanish Ministry of Science, please. Thomas Sarnheimo, Chairman of the Eurogroup Working Group, so I hope I said it correctly. And Michael Dolingalski, Director responsible for Innovation and Development at the Ministry of Science and Higher Education in Poland, please. So before sitting down, I want to observe you to observe this panel, and it reflects a bit what I was saying before. So we are trying to mobilize and to convince and to mobilize the importance of research and innovation. Not only, of course, those that are already convinced, so the research families, the research and innovation actors, but also those that can also contribute. So why not the finance ministers? That's why in the panel you will see that there are not only our usual suspect speakers, which will provide us with a lot of information on how they are dealing with providing more investments and reforms for innovation, but also why not to hear the point of view as well from the finance ministers and the Eurogroups, what they consider important. Because if we want to work together, the first thing is always to hear the counterpart, what they are looking for, so what are the needs. So I think this panel is doing exactly that. We will go in detail on the role of research and innovation for economic growth in general, for competitiveness in particular, and we will try to understand how we can better boost our innovation potential and what may be the requirements to secure effective and impactful investments for the economy. So along these lines, this is why we start already with the kind of video message from Pascal Donhoe, which is the president of the Eurogroup, which will be setting a bit the scene for this type of discussion in the logic that I mentioned, that we are all working together and hearing as well from the different sides. So if we can have the video, and in the meanwhile, I sit down.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to participate in your conference today, and regrettably, I cannot be with you in person as we are now well into a busy few weeks for budget and finance ministers. I myself am in Dublin preparing the Irish national budget, and I want to thank the European Commission for their kind invitation to say a few words today about the role of research and innovation in the competitiveness of Europe. There are, of course, so many ways to define and measure competitiveness. From a standard of living perspective, for instance, Europe has performed relatively well compared to other major economic blocs, such as the United States. EU GDP was just 4% shy of US output over the past 20 years, for example. But in recent times, with growing risk, competitiveness has been increasingly viewed through a geo-economic lens. This implies taking account of a broader range of factors, such as the size of an economy, its innovative output, the availability of venture capital, our dependence on energy imports, and even demographic trends. And as some of you may know, the Eurogroup has been actively engaged in a number of policy discussions on European competitiveness over the past year, including a focus on innovation and productivity in a global context. From my perspective, I've heard a few key messages. First, it's clear that we need to compete globally. In order to do this, we need science. This means giving a greater weighting to the role of research and innovation. We must focus on technological openness and competition within markets to identify the best technologies to achieve our priorities, notably decarbonisation and climate neutrality. Secondly, the EU can play a stronger role as a beacon of knowledge and defender of academic freedom worldwide. Our framework for research and higher education could be developed in a targeted manner and adopted to the changing geopolitical environment so that we pursue a values-based, smart approach that is better aligned with our strategic interests. As a key priority, thirdly, I heard about the importance of the European Union investing a total of 3% of GDP in R&D. From a financing perspective, the importance of boosting both private and public sector sources of R&D investment is an area in which the Eurogroup is particularly aware of. And we have now delivered, through the Eurogroup, a major contribution to taking CMU forward through agreeing a comprehensive action plan that is now being operationalised. We look forward to engaging afresh with a new Commission and other key partners on this later in the autumn. From the public investment side, increased R&D funding that crowds and mobilises private sources of capital has the potential to create a deeper European market for venture capital. Clearly, we all want to strengthen the entrepreneurial and startup spirit in Europe and to position our continent as a leading source of venture capital and as a globally attractive location for startups. So, the Eurogroup will continue work in these areas over the autumn and beyond as we seek to close the productivity and innovation gaps between the EU and international competitors to ensure our long-term prosperity. I wish you all a very productive and engaging rest of conference. Thank you.
As I was mentioning, indeed, very good setting the scene, and we move immediately to the questions. So I will start with the lady, if you don't mind. Nice color of dress as well. So Spain, we heard about the public investments he mentioned, and in the amendment of the science law, Spain has been included a target for public R&D expenditure of 1.25 of GDP. So actually, this was the target we have included as well in our ERA communication in 2020. So why this strong commitment? Why you were betting on this, on boosting Spanish productivity through R&D, and what are the measures that you have been put in place for that?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Magda, and thank you for the panelists that are coming with me today. I think that is a very relevant question. I'm very glad to be here today to explain it why. We have learned a lot from the previous crisis in 2008, from the austerity measures that had a strong social and economic impact, and we have suffered from these consequences for years, not only from the economic point of view, but also from the social and sensitive point of view, the investor confidence, etc. So when the government came in 2018, they came with a very strong commitment to increase the investments and to change the law, to really commit to this percentage of 1.25, but not only from the public side, because we need also the private funding, and it's the total figure of 3% as the ERA has committed. So I think that this shift is very important, and I want also to outline here that the law was approved without any vote against it. So it's also a country priority. So this deep transformation that was started some years ago, taking into account this digital and ecological transition, but also taking into account the cohesion, social and regional cohesion, and that is very important in such a decentralized country, is based on 4 pillars. Research and innovation as a collective priority. This is what the law is saying, and this is what the parliament voted. Second, knowledge transfer and academic excellence. Knowledge transfer also focusing on new and disruptive technologies. You know, 4 out of 50 worldwide enterprises only 4 are European, and that's why also Spain is also working on a deep tech strategy. Third pillar, talent. We cannot forget talent, skilling and reskilling of our workforces, of our people, and that's why we approved a plan to retain and to attract talent. And 4 pillar, investments, as we said. Investments is not all, but it's a very important part. Not only from the public side, but also from the private side. Public investment to unlock high-risk projects, disruptive ideas, research ideas. And this is very important. We created, and these are the measures, a public-private fund called Invierte, venture capital, to fund high-risk projects. We foster public-private cooperation, and we are focusing on strategic sectors that are the so-called purchase. So I think that all in all, this is more or less what we wanted to make with the law and with this important commitment.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Elisa, for the clarity. So the 4 main pillars, very clear and very much in line with what we heard, indeed. So now let's move to Thomas. Again, we heard about the 3%, and also Commissioner mentioned it. It's in the Draghi report as well. So We are still at 2.2% still, even if this has been a target for 2 decades already. So why you think it's so difficult to translate this into policies, and especially what would be your recipe eventually that Europe needs to kickstart the process that can lead us to reach this target?
Thank you, Magda, and good morning, everyone. So I'm here to represent the public purse, which is not always the most popular position to be. Now, research and development is one of those funny things where everyone essentially agrees. There's no serious politician or civil servant in Europe that denies the importance for our future. And this has been the case since the beginning of times, basically. And still we are lagging behind in terms of R&D quantity, surely, but also in terms of its commercialization. Now, the shortfall vis-à-vis our competitors is primarily on the private side. It's not on the public outlays in R&D. So that kind of shows our where our efforts need to go. But the main shortfall is in terms of reaping the benefits of R&D, the economic fruits of that work. And this is something that the Draghi reports and Letta reports pointed out. The EU does not create new champions commensurate with its abilities in the side of knowledge and innovation. Now, how to tackle this? Now, I would not be doing my job as a representative of the finance side if I did not remind you of the scarcity of public funds. This is not going to change in the coming years. More likely it's going to get worse. And there are a multitude of demands, starting from defense, green transition. That's not unrelated to R&D, but still there are different demands. And this is a predicament we cannot spend our way out of. We need to be smarter. And Mr. Donahoe referred to the work the Eurogroup has been doing, and he kind of summarized the outcomes of that. And I think there is a lot of commonality between those debates and what is in the two reports. So primarily we have to concentrate on the framework conditions. We cannot pay through public funds for all that is needed. We need to create the framework conditions to make Europe an attractive place for private funds to do the job for us. And that includes a number of things. It includes access to financing. For those who don't know what CMU is, Pascal mentioned it, Capital Markets Union, that's access to venture capital, that's access to scale-up funding. EIB is an important tool there. Elisa mentioned public-private cooperation, very, very important. The other one, again, mentioned by Draghi, regulatory framework, very good in regulation in various areas. GDPR is something that Draghi mentioned. On the finance side, MiFID is a voluminous package of regulation that may have some unfortunate consequences that we didn't think of. So we may need to think of our regulatory framework and think a new attitude. AI is an upcoming regulatory field, should be cognizant of all the consequences. Of course, education system is fundamental to all R&D. We don't create top talent if we don't have a strong education system. And of course, finally, R&D support is going to be part of the puzzle to create the critical mass of knowledge that is needed for sort of self-pollination. I stop here.
All right, so it's quite a complex recipe, a lot of ingredients that needs to be inside. So I move now to Minister ReICO, So Hungary has experienced rapid economic growth in the last decade. Private R&D investments have been increasing substantially. What are then the key measures that Hungary has been putting in place for that, and notably for SMEs that often faces the most difficulties?
Thank you, and I will. Okay, so
okay.
Good morning for everybody, and thank you for the question. In our ministry, we are not just responsible for culture and family and youth policy. We have innovation, science policy, higher education, and vocational training together, which has a very huge impact on research and development and all those issues. But first, I would like to highlight all of you 4 important data on Europe, especially on competitiveness. One is in productivity. So Europe reached 95% of US productivity by 1995. Now it's around 80%. Second, science. Europe's share of quality publication has decreased by 8 percentage points in the last decade. Third, only 4 of the world's 50 biggest tech companies are European. And the last one, venture capital. Europe has 5% venture capital, US around 50, and China 40%. So there is a need for competitive turnaround. And if we analyze from that point of view the Hungarian model, it was important for us how to initiative private research, development, investments, and funds. And it has, I would say, 5 pillars. 1, tax breaks. Second, how to connect in the new Hungarian model universities and industry together. The third, that we have a special state funding system for research and development and innovation. Fourth, a very attractive FDI policy of Hungary. And the last one, the new Hungarian Innovation Agency, which is really important because SMEs, innovation, and all the other partners, this is a party place for all of them. So tax breaks, just very short. If a company performing research development activities can use tax-based relief or tax relief, it's important for all those companies. Even development tax discount if the amount of the investment reaches at least €250,000 in a company. Third, which I think is very important for the young researchers and PhD students, or if you have a PhD career, that if a company has doctorate student, PhD student, or even an academic degree employee, all of the full monthly salary can reduce in the tax system, which is very, I think it's a very important activity, how you can combine even it in a cooperative doctorate model, industry and university together. We have a very special new university system, which is not a state-owned university system, a public interest trust fund model, but in the heart of that, we have 25 years long strategic agreement with all these universities, with a 6-year term performance-based financing system. Every second euro is on performance status, research, innovation, and education excellence. And our special state fund, which is coming from the innovation contribution paid by companies, divided into 2 parts. One is an innovation fund, and the second is a research fund. And we think that with the mentioned FDI policy and the new Hungarian Innovation Agency, these are the crucial or critical points in the new Hungarian research and development and innovation ecosystem.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Very clear, and it's a clear policy mix and different measures that combine each other and innovative too. So thanks a lot. We move now to Poland, and in fact, in your case as well, there has been a similar process where private research and development investments have increased significantly. You passed from 0.33% to 1% in 10 years. So again, also for the audience to know what are the measures that you have been put in place and have facilitated this important process to help the private sector.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Over the last decade, Poland has introduced a number of legislative changes that resulted in strong, significant increase in R&D expenditure, especially in the private sector. In 2017, introduced so-called the first act of innovation, which was the basis for the second and proper act at the later date, and it's all called large act. And at the beginning, it was intended to bring quick effects through a specific facilitation for the enterprises. And I think the most free factor it was abolition permanently of taxation with income tax on contribution of intellectual property and industrial property, extension of possibility of deducting cost for the R&D activities from 3 to 6 years, and also stabilizing for financing for the activities related to commercialization and research and development. And the second act, the second and the proper act of innovation came to force in January 2011, and the aim of the big act was to reduce the barrier to conducting innovative activities, and I think especially strengthen the cooperation between business and the science. And this cooperation also important for us nowadays.
All right. Thanks a lot. This also was very clear, and probably also can give some ideas, in fact, on possible measures. Thanks a lot. Now we go to the second round, but I really ask you, and I have Katarina really looking at me, to be short, to the point, because we don't have a lot of time, and there will be parallel session, and probably we will not have time for questions, but at least try to anticipate the questions that people would have asked you. So one, I hope that this was also something people want to know. We move to reforms now, and so we have been talking about investments. Now in terms of reforms, there are specific reforms that are extremely important to boost the innovation. Science-business linkages is one. We know that Spain has been quite active on that, so it would be very nice to know a bit more of the measures that you have been putting in place in that, and eventually if there have been bottlenecks as well that you have encountered, and how do you overcame them?
Thank you. Yeah, of course. I think that this is a key question. My directorate, I'm the directorate for knowledge transfer, and this is the meaning is the political will to tackle one of the main challenges in Spain. Spain is very good at producing scientific knowledge. I think that we have a very good scientific system. Of course, everything can be improved, but we are still lagging behind on how to translate this knowledge to return it to the society, to the private sector. So at some point we started to think how to connect better the system, the scientific researchers with the private sector, with the industry, and at this point I want to outline that Spain is preparing the new law on industry, focusing on innovation, competitiveness, and growth. But innovation is a key part of this new law on industry. So we started to work together. We asked the OECD help and the Commission, and they helped us to develop a roadmap. This roadmap was translating into the law, and in two plans: the plan to attract and to retain talent, and one plan action plan for fostering knowledge transfer. So all in all, what we are trying to do is at the public level to work together with the different ministries to align resources, because this is not a question of not having resources, but to align resources to the same direction. Also, we created the National Office on Scientific Advice. That is a very new measure that we are very proud of it, because this is how to promote political decisions based on scientific decisions. We are also working with regions. Regions are essential in our state to align also the regional priorities with scientific priorities and innovation priorities, and we are working with local authorities. And in that sense, I wanted also to outline the importance of the missions, European missions, for example, the mission on climate neutral cities. So we are working with the whole ecosystem. But as Thomas has outlined it is not only the question from the offer, I mean, what we are from the public side, but the demand, and we have a very critical problem on the demand side, the private sector. Our peak, I mean, the most, all our companies, the most of them, they are from the very small companies. So we have to promote this culture, you have to promote that shift, a cultural shift on the companies to demand it. We have invested, and we can see it now, the consequences. 1 out of 5 new jobs are digital and technological employees, based also on scientific knowledge, but we have still to work together with the private sector to create this cultural shift, to demand innovation and research, to have on their companies doctors, you know, these kind of measures, industrial doctors, proof of concept, this venture capital, all these measures. So we need one mission, one direction, and this shared vision of being an economic based on growth, competitiveness, innovation, and knowledge for our citizens, for the social well-being of our citizens. This is what we want. Thank you.
Great, and I think we need the enthusiasm that you have as well. the same enthusiasm you are using to express this, to be put for the implementation. That's why probably you are getting results as well. And you mentioned working with the other ministers, so it's an extra element, very important, working with the local authorities, practically the ecosystem as well. And then that's why I move now to Minister ReICO. We are speaking about ecosystem, so how to modernize ecosystem, what are the reforms needed, so again, what has been done in this sense in Hungary?
I will try to do my best to summarize it in a minute.
Very good, thank you.
So, now I give you 3 Hungarian examples. 1, in the last 10 years, we tripled research development resources. 2nd, more researchers, so we have twice as many research and development workers are employed in Hungary than 10 years ago, which is the third largest increase in the EU. And the 3rd one, that we have doubled the doctoral students in the last 5 years. And out of them, 30% coming from abroad, which also very important. And I would like to highlight 2 important restructuring. One is the university model, the new Hungarian university model, as I mentioned before. And second, the impact-driven research model. We call that new model John von Neumann program. There is a need in this John von Neumann program, economic, social, or intellectual impact. And we focus on digitalization, green transition, and health. And that's why we have a center of excellence in our universities, and we are developing science parks together with the industry and the universities. And of course, we renewed our excellence program as well, just like an ERC model. 1.5.
Thank you. Wonderful, and very nice message too in terms of, so you focus on universities in this sense, so everything that is done around universities, and you mentioned these keywords, impact, so impact-driven research models, so not only doing things, but really to achieve an impact. So very nice, and very nice you kept it on the time, and we move to Poland now, and we look, well, a bit linked to what I was saying at the beginning, so you have been using, of course, cohesion funds, recovery resilience facility, support for research and innovation investments. And this is extremely important indeed for countries as well, that what we call the widening countries that are a bit lagging behind. And so just to know from you how important it has been this in terms of upgrading the policy R&I system. And also, we know that there is always an issue of sustainability once the funds decrease, or so there might be a problem there. So how you are thinking about going forward also when maybe there is a bit less of that? And what is the sustainability plan for that?
For the Poland, the EU funds played a key role in development and research activities, and we try to use the European fund as much as we can, as much as is possible. We support both, let's say, both sides of the this cooperation, both academic and also industry. EU funds play a key role, especially in supporting such activities that are not with high risk development products. And other areas of the EU funds is technological infrastructure that is not available for the entrepreneurs, and we use the public sector to create such infrastructure and made it available for the public on the research agendas. And there is also place to cooperation between business and the science.
All right. Now, thanks a lot, and thanks for being concise as well, and very clear messages as well on that. I end up our second tour with you, Thomas, so we go back to you. Again, we exploit the fact that you keep discussing with economic and finance ministers. So we are, of course, from the R&I sides, we are asking you how likely that would be that there is a substantial push in public R&I investments, of course linked with the structural reforms. And you mentioned that there is a control of public deficits, of course, that needs to be preserved, bringing the level of the public debt down. So how this reconciles with, how can we guarantee that we are still protecting these growth enhancing investments, which is investments in research and innovation? Positive, please.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'd love to be. I'm sure I can. I'm not sure I can, but anyway. So, I mean, regarding, I mean, there are two sides of that coin. One is national, and the other one is European. At the national level, the new economic governance framework that is now being implemented, the first round of fiscal structural plans should be in force from the beginning of next year, offers a little bit more qualitative view into national budgets and planning. So it's not only about the bottom line, which was the case for the last 25 years and with consequences that were not always great. So there is a quality perspective there in the European surveillance of national budgets and of course a great deal of awareness of the importance of R&D. So I think European surveillance framework will be supportive of national contributions to R&D. Now, regarding the European part and the upcoming MFF round, I mean, that's where my crystal ball gets a bit cloudy. Now, I mentioned the competing priorities. I mentioned defense, I mentioned green transition, and these are definitely going to be on the table in those talks. Then, I mean, your guess is as good as mine as to what extent we will be able to deploy the funds that are presently deployed in the two big business areas, agriculture and cohesion, redeploy those to R&D. Now, cohesion funds can, to some extent, within that title, be used for that purpose. RRF as well, but that is, I mean, to be realistic, unlikely to have sort of continuation that would disperse in a similar manner in the next MFF cycle. So cohesion funds, redeployment, or then just reallocation within the MFF to R&D. I mean, everyone, as I said at the beginning, everyone loves R&D. But when the push comes to shove and the final sleepless nights in the MFF rounds are negotiated, it tends to lead to an outcome that is not necessarily consistent with this professed love of R&D. So let's hope it's different this time.
Thanks a lot. But this is why you are here today, you see, so we can lobby you for doing that. But you were mentioning competing priorities. Let's remember that R&I most of the time is enabling the achievement of priorities. So I think in that sense, if we think in this way, then we can change a bit the perspective and the narrative as well. But thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to the panelists. It has been great. I will just give a bit, so I'm a bit late, but what are my takeaways? And then I will invite Katrina as well to share, because she was also very much listening to that. So for me, well, very clear. R&I is the key driver of long-term competitiveness. This is clear. It is about quantity of investments, but not only. We need the framework conditions. We heard a lot. There are a lot of measures deployed that we can also get inspiration for. It is about boosting public R&I, but not only. And public R&I can also help, of course, the private investments, which are key. And of course, we need all the structural reforms, like you mentioned, capital union markets and everything that needs to have a performing research and innovation ecosystem. So thanks a lot to all panelists. It has been extremely inspiring, interesting, and rich. A lot of good examples, practical ones. I like always when theory is accompanied by practice, and this was the idea. And thanks for bringing this point of view. It will be very useful for us to build our defensive and narrative.